for speech and language services throughout primary, community and continuing care system. And being contacted about their child, the parents have told us that they could not be given a potential date for assessing the services, as the therapists in question were currently redeployed from speech and language therapy to contact tracing team for Galway. It's also been confirmed to us in the last couple of hours indeed that 2 speech and language therapists on the Galway Roscommon Autism team based in Athenry have also been redeployed to contact tracing. Marika Morris joins me on the line. She's the Irish Association of Speech and Language Therapists, and she's chairperson and director of the association, and she joins me on line 1 today. Marika, how in the name of all that's good and holy could a speech and language therapist be taken off the role that they're doing, which is a very specialised role, and be put into contact tracing?
In actual fact, I think it's even wider than that, in the sense that a lot of speech and language therapists are not just being pulled for contact tracing, but also for the testing itself.
But there's specialised people, and I mean, you're in the association, Marika, of Irish Association of Speech and Language Therapists. The role, I mean, there's waiting lists the length of your arm and longer than that, and they've been taken for testing or contact tracing, and the skill sets that they have.
Yes, that is hugely concerning, because the waiting lists were a concern already, and it is really impacting on services at the moment. Even not just the waiting list, but those who were on the list who were seen, it might have been that their therapy was paused, and then everybody's needs changed over the pandemic. Some might not have been able to access school services. Their needs then changed, and now it needs to be reviewed. So if there's a delay, there's also that impact on now the speech and language therapists, if they do have the time and they can be accessing the services, they might have to start from scratch again, assessing again, and thereby frustrating both the therapists and the parents and the child, and slowing down that process. So it is highly concerning.
But I know a couple of weeks ago we covered something similar to this from a speech and language point of view. And with speech and language, you go 5 or 10 steps forward. But if there's a break in the service or the support indeed that your members give, they can go 5 or 6 steps backwards as well. So it really is, it's a tricky situation. And again, at the end of the day, the person that's getting the speech and language wants to get as much assistance as possible. But if they're gone on COVID tracing, it's a banana situation, to be quite honest.
Yes, it is really, really difficult. And I know that the HSC have been looking into recruiting people for testing and contact tracing, but that process will take a long time. And we've seen the redeployment increasing in the last week or two. It hasn't decreased because of the demand on services, and that's going to impact on the speech and language services and a lot of the other allied health professions who are redeployed.
But I mean, certainly tracing is very important. Testing, very important. The 2 T's are extremely important. But take somebody from an administration role or something and put them in to contact tracing, or redeploy them if they're working somewhere and they're not working, or they're whatever. But don't redeploy specialists in the field of speech and language and other areas that are badly needed during the pandemic, and people are affected by this.
Exactly, and it has been difficult for everyone involved, but we are now thinking about the long-term impact, and waiting lists in certain areas, it's a number of years, and it was a number of years even before the pandemic hit. So we're talking now about that being neither early nor intervention, and that's not somewhere you want to be.
And just an email that we got this morning. Hi Keith, delighted you're doing a piece on speech and language in Galway this morning. My son is in Renmore Language Unit. He had a lovely speech therapist last year. I got a text from the school saying that she is replaced this year with another therapist at start of month. And a week later, the school emailed me to inform me that the new speech therapist is COVID swabbing and there's no start date in sight. On hearing this, I emailed her manager, and you tell me who that is, in Shantala, a reply to basically state that she has passed it on to her superiors. It beggars belief that they should take a much needed and sought after resource from the most vulnerable groups in our society. 7 places are in the language unit. Kids do 2 years, so every year there's only 2 to 3 places come available. As kids leave, you can imagine how hard it is to obtain a place, and furthermore, the actual level of need a child has to improve, to get accepted by someone. But this needs to be taken into account and supports put in place as well. And that's signed by a lady called Lisa. So that's a note from the heart. And yet, again, stay with me if you don't mind, Monica, if you don't mind. I want to go to Aisling Colreevy, who joins me on the line from the Galway Autism Partnership. Aisling, as we were coming to air today, I was told that confirmed to us that the 2 speech and language therapists in the Galway Roscommon Autism team based in Athenry have also been redeployed to contact tracing. It's been confirmed to me, so it's true. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, good morning, Keith, and thank you very much for having me on. It's incredibly disappointing to hear that the speech and language therapists will be redeployed to contact tracing and testing. And, as
they
you
have
said
been.
yourself,
It's done.
It's been done. It's done and signed off. And we're just hoping that the decision will be reversed. Like contact tracing and testing is obviously such an important job, and we're all incredibly thankful and grateful to the hard-working people that are doing that. But just in my opinion and the opinion of the parents, this is just robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's taking from one need and placing it in the other. And, as Marika was saying, there are people, children and young people who during the lockdown were experiencing a loss of skills, they were experiencing a regression. We actually surveyed our members during the lockdown, and after the fear for the mental and physical health of children and their families, the second biggest concern for our members was the loss of crucial skills. And this isn't a case of just a short-term impact. If children are deprived of speech and language and other crucial interventions at this really important early intervention stage, the impact can last for a lifetime. It's really, it can't be overstated how disastrous this could be for children and for their families.
But somebody just said to me there, Keith, the first contact tracing call has to be made by a clinician, someone with professional training, and someone from admin is not qualified to make the call. Now, I don't understand that, because I know somebody when this started out who was an SNA within one of the schools, and he was transferred from the role that he was in to contact tracing, so I don't understand that. I can understand if a clinician needs to make a call, but to be honest, the speech and language therapist is more needed at their own desks rather than contact tracing. And I do know that an SNA, he's a friend of mine who's an SNA in a school in town, and he was redeployed from the SNA post when the school's closed to contact tracing. I think he's still doing it, actually. Maybe he's back at school because schools are back now, I don't know. But anyway, it's not going to be, we're not going to sort it today, but somebody needs to jump up and down about this, Marika, and just do something about this and highlight this.
Exactly, because when we did our survey, our ISLP survey in May, 47% of the therapists who were surveyed were redeployed in some capacity. That's a huge number. And the impact on services, it's not even just those who are redeployed, it's about the impact then of the social distancing on therapy services. How do we set up a clinic to make it safe for everybody to attend, have the full PPE procedures and everything in place, and being able to see the same amount of clients you were before. It is even not just that simple. But Aisling had a really good point about that loss of crucial skills, because we do see sometimes children regress in skills if they don't get those supports.
Yeah.
And that is really important that they can access that. And Lisa mentioning about the language unit, children only have a limited amount of time they're allowed to be in the language unit. So time is ticking there.
How many, Aisling Colreevy from the Galway Autism Partnership, can I ask you, how many families do you believe are affected by all of this messing around?
Well, I know that there's 808 young people and families currently on the waiting list for intervention at the Galway Roscommon Autism Services. And just in my experience...
Hang on a second, 808 families?
808 families.
Waiting on a waiting list that haven't been seen yet?
they may have received some form of intervention, but they're currently still waiting for further intervention, or there are many people who've been waiting up to 3 years to get any speech and language, any physiotherapy, occupational therapy. So, you know, the issue of waiting lists has been around for a long, long time. I'm sure Marika is very familiar with it. Keith, you would have spoke to parents and probably myself about it. And something as well to take into account is the Galway Roscommon Autism Services are currently in the process of reconfiguration, which is a huge amount of work for the team and also for the families that are involved in that service. We have, GAP and the families have been given a date for the completion of the reconfiguration by January 2021, but I just don't see that happening if staff are being redeployed. And I know we're living in the middle of a pandemic, it's completely uncertain times, but what we're doing is this is actively targeting the most vulnerable people in society. It's saying that their needs are not as important as the needs of other people, and this has been done over and over and over again. And, you know, people do need to, like you said, something has to be done about this. People need to stand up and make some noise about this, because it is just not acceptable to take these services away from the people who need them so desperately.
Added strain on parents who don't really need that type of strain. Marika, thank you for joining us. Keep the fight up. And Aisling, thank you for joining us today. I believe. Thank you both for joining us. Marika Morris joining us here, Irish Association of Speech and Language Therapists, Chairperson and Director, and Aisling Colreevy. I'm told we're staying with this, by the way. So I'll take a short commercial break and we're back in under 2 minutes.